abject submission. Grasp the enormity. Vladimir Putin, in a public forum, praised Russian prostitutes as the best in the world. Obviously, he was trying to boost sex tourism. Who can doubt that Putin is taking a ruble or two out of every prostitute's ass on every trick pulled in Russia? And this glorified pimp strides the globe like a colossus, and the President of the United States is honored to be his stooge. And precisely what makes Russian prostitutes the best in the world? The cult of submission, of course. Everyday life in Russia is the perfect training ground for whores. Degradation, soul destroying submission to arbitrary political power, teaches the prostitute more about the oldest profession than any doctoral course in biology ever could. Americans, do you really want to stroll down this road? Andrei Makine, in Dreams of My Russian Summers, describes, quote, Russian life, a strange amalgam of cruelty, compassion, drunkenness, anarchy, invincible joie de vivre, tears, willing slavery, stupid obstinacy, and unexpected delicacy. A Russia pitted against the world by its somber destiny. The invisible Russia, a continent encircled by barbed wire and watchtowers. In this forbidden country, the simplest words took on a fearful significance. Burn the throat like the bitter stuff that I drank from a thick glass tumbler. I love it for its absurdity, for its monstrosities. I see in it a higher meaning that no logical reasoning can penetrate. This love was a continual heartbreak. The blacker the Russia I was discovering, the more violent my attachment became. As if to love it, one had to tear out one's eyes, plug one's ears, stop oneself thinking. Unquote. From here, Makine launches into the story of Beria, Stalin's chief of secret police, Putin's spiritual ancestor. What is to be done? First, obviously, we must impeach Putin's stooge. That will clear away the obstruction to the imposition of sanctions. That, too, should break the resistance to taking measures protecting ourselves from Russian meddling in our elections. Unless, of course, the Republican Party, as a whole, is more compromised than I think. This, for me, is just a start. Putin set a fire in our rear. I want to set a fire in his rear. Our military strategy, given his possession of nuclear weapons, must be defensive and protective of our allies. Our political strategy, on the other hand, must be aggressive. We entered that struggle bearing the stench of the 2016 election and the appalling spectacle of a mentally diseased degenerate wielding presidential powers. We are a laugh line for humanity. Nonetheless, we must press on. Only we possess the military might to deter Putin, to restrain him, to frustrate his plan to transform the global economy into a vast, corrupt, client oligarchy. Imagine it. Force yourself to imagine it. Then coldly and disenthralled conceive the master counterstroke. Our political objective must be the transformation of the United Nations into an elected and representative, hence legitimate, body. We must complete the business left unfinished by the Second World War. Our nuclear arsenal, which our right-wing nuts see as a tool to extort concessions from the rest of the world, can be used as a nuclear umbrella beneath which freedom-loving peoples everywhere can rise up against their oppressors. In close consultation with freedom-loving peoples facing the Russian menace, we can adopt a defensive and protective posture which, hopefully, will deter Putin and the oligarchs. If Putin crosses that frontier, our allies must defend themselves on the ground. We will provide the air and naval power to devastate Russian logistics. Again, the more credible our posture, the more effective the deterrent. We will need pilots. 100,000, 200,000, a million, whatever it takes. Putin's countermove will be to try to draw us into a proxy war somewhere. We must not take the bait. Our advantage lies in our mobility. We must be ready with an overarching political solution. There is a software program called Maptitude, The Republicans perverted it to serve the ends of Project Red Map, the national gerrymander. But the most fair state, Iowa, also uses Maptitude. They use it properly to implement the elections statute. Maptitude, used properly, can district the world. Say 1,000 districts? The United Nations can be transformed into a legitimate institution. The very act of debating the district lines may deal a mortal blow to the present semi-anarchic system of competing nation-states. What might happen in Putin's rear if the prospect of a suddenly free world, the entire world, is dangled before the Russian people? A legitimate free world, not a Western anti-Russian alliance. A free world they can join. How hot might they make it for Putin and the oligarchs? This is our destiny. The colonial generation was determined to show the world that the common man could govern himself. In the Gettysburg Address, President Lincoln challenged the country to keep the faith with that creed. In World War II, we acted upon the world stage to assert that creed, helping to retrieve freedom from the clutches of fascism. What I propose is merely the next logical step in that historic journey. It is bigger than blood and soil. It is the antithesis of America First, our euphemism for fascism. It is a great consummation. Once again, we may nobly gain or meanly lose the last great hope of earth. Can we muster the greatness of soul to travel the road to our destiny?